Coming up on the LCS preview show, we rate the rookies, listen in on the pros, and turn your fantasy into a reality with some tips that will improve your points. Keep your hands in sight. The LCS preview show starts right now.
And now Mbappe is in trouble. Froggin gets on towards him. He gets himself another double kill. He's now 5-0-1 on Anivia. There's the speed up, the ultimate comes out, and he bites down onto Crumbs to get that red buff for himself.
There is the Lancer coming in, flash as well, he managed to lock up Genja, he's going to flash away, the hook misses, but it doesn't matter, SK following through, and Spence going and gets the kill back.
Got him.
More. Evil geniuses are going to take down Cloud9 and start to work their way back up the standings.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the LCS Preview Show. I'm Rivington Bism III, and today we're going to talk...
Wait. You're definitely not Rivington Bism III.
Yeah, I just thought if I talked fast enough and still had the beard, that it would just go right over.
You can't get anything past our fans, dude.
You know what? It's fine. But you know what? Thankfully, we've still got tons of puns ready for the show.
No, didn't you see the email? There's no more puns on the preview show.
You know what? That's just your opinion.
Oh boy. Anyway, we're here to break down the LCS action from week 3, and I'll also help your fantasy team generate some real points by telling you who should be in your lineup and who should be polishing the bench with their backsides.
And as a reminder, you can always check out the previous episodes of the preview show right under the tab at the top of lolesports.com. That's where you're going to find VODs of our past shows, but unfortunately, with a lot less puns in them. But now we're going to turn our attention to week 3 in the European LCS, where the teams continue to battle their way through a table that had more ties than a wedding reception. Our first highlight comes from Thursday's face-off between Alliance and Rocket.
Yeah, and Freak, this one was just a top versus bottom matchup. Rocket had fallen off so far. They're hoping to get something back against Froggin and Anivia.
And thankfully, this actually is a pretty decent gank. They managed to egg Froggin to the, front of this fight, and Shook actually just oversends a bit. It's a really good play by Yankos. Honestly, Rocket still got great individual skill. Yeah, and they can start things out well.
Big exhaust by Vander there when they flashed in, too. A 2v3 is not what Shook wanted to be involved in, and it looked good early for Rocket. 4 kills to 0, but a lot of farm for Alliance.
Yeah, Alliance have gotten a lot better with their team coordination. Their mid-game shot calling is awesome as well, and this ends up being a really great fight for these guys. Froggin just kites them around through the jungle so well. Wicked shows up on Jax, and they start getting tabs fed, and that's a big deal.
This was a very late game focused team composition for Alliance. So when they got those kills, they really just had all the momentum.
And I love just how good Anivia is at protecting these new frail, squishy backliners like Cog and Twitch, because tabs really never gets touched at all in this game, and it's old Froggin style. Play late game, pick Anivia, and your carry gets fed at the end game.
I mean, maybe Alliance is going to make a run with more of these late game picks. It is definitely when Froggin and Wicked were most successful as players.
Yeah, so Alliance starting at 6-1, Rocket at 1-6, but next Super Hot Crew battling against Fanatic in sort of new upstart versus the old #1.
Yeah, Fanatic struggling, Super Hot Crew looking really good, and this was also the second longest game in LCS history. First highlights at 44 minutes, Free.
Yeah, it's only 14 kills right now, 44 minutes in, and you're seeing these guys go back and forth, but really, it's Fanatic getting a little bit too strung out there. They're a poke team. They don't keep fighting that well.
Yeah, and even though in the game they landed hundreds of spears, that one hook early on here catches Fnatic out, and they get collapsed upon by the superior team fighting a Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, there's no Trundle really to speak of to kite the team back, so it's the ability to just keep going in. Just flash from Selfie to go over the wall was huge there.
Yeah, Super Hot Crew over 100,000 gold after that fight. It was a long one they had to get through. Look at the relief on Rawls' face right there.
So they go 5-2, but now after beating Fnatic, they've got to beat the new #1 in Alliance for a first place battle.
Yeah, you would not expect this to be a first place battle at the start of the year, or even a couple weeks into last split, but oh, have times have changed.
So right here you're seeing them try to start it out, but again, it's Froggin on Anivia, and he's pretty good at the champion. Picked up another double kill for himself on this one, and he just keeps destroying phases.
Yeah, and then he comes down bottom for what? Another double kill. He ends up after this fight 5-0-1 on Anivia. We're going to be seeing a whole bunch more of this bird.
Yeah, Anivia mechanics are a whole bunch of fun to watch. I like, Crepo gave kind of a rundown of how he plays the champion at All-Stars. You're going to want to go watch the analyst desk after one of the games there. But Froggin continually just destroys everybody, kites the team's way, Glacial Storm's still on, you can't run away from him that way. And you even got Wicked on Aurelia. It's a whole bunch of callbacks.
Really old school week for Alliance, and success all throughout for them.
So then Fnatic versus Rocket, two teams who were awesome during the spring split here, neither having the season they really want.
Yeah, Rocket in particular just keeps struggling, but the starts of their games honestly aren't that bad. It's the mid game here where they get caught out 5v2.
And they've got Reckless there going gigantic on Twitch, picking up all these nice stealth kills. Celiver as well, caught out a little bit too far.
Yeah, the Lulu also enhancing the damage from Reckless. That is the game he wants to be playing.
And it just makes the team so tanky as well. Soaz on Lulu this game keeps Cyanide safe in the front line. The follow-up there from Nami as well. And even though it's not hard to engage, it's enough to pick the fights that they want and to leave their backline on the backline to deal damage.
Yeah, real nice team comp there from Fnatic. Even with a minimal gold lead, they could still roll over Roccat in those late game team fights.
So very impressive stuff by these guys. Honestly, a very, very good team overall. But now let's take a quick look at the standings in Europe. Now that Week 3's games are in the books, looks like most of the multiple ties were actually eliminated as the teams spread things out a little bit. And sitting ahead of everyone else is Alliance, who rode Froggin's Anivia Wings to a 6-game winning streak and a near perfect record through the spring split at 7-1. Now, our top story of the day is that the Copenhagen Wolves will be forfeiting today's match against Rocket. Due to an illness on the team and the Wolves' failure to field an eligible player in time for today, they'll have to forfeit, and Rocket will get the win. But now we're going to turn over to the power of technology and call on someone a quarter of the way around the globe who can give us a bit more insight into the European LCS. Trevor, Quick Shot Henry, what's up?
Not much. Thank you for the call, but it's actually you who are 9 hours in the past, freak.
Well, that's because time travel is awesome, so I'm going to go ahead and fix your mistakes right here in my presence. So anyway, let's talk about Alliance, who are dominating the European LCS right now. Now, we've seen this before. In every split in the history of the European LCS, a team starts 7-1, but then those teams falter in the weeks after. Can Alliance actually break that 7-1 EU LCS curse?
Ooh, I'm not sure. The curse is definitely real, though. In 2013, in the spring split, Fnatic went 7-1, then they lost 2 games and needed to pull themselves back. In the summer of last year, Alternate went 7-1, and then they plummeted to 6th place. Now, just in the last split in spring, Fnatic went 7-1 before they lost 8 games in a row. Alliance are on the cusp of being the 4th team to go 7-1 in Europe, and we'll see if they can break the curse today.
And we'll see if they can. So in your opinion, Quick Shot, what can Alliance do to avoid falling victim to that curse?
Well, they really just have to do what they have been doing for the last couple of the weeks. Alliance has just come together this split. They've been a dominating force. And in fact, their last match of Week 3, they easily defeated Selfie and the Super Hot Crew, which is the only team that's beaten them this split. Besides being at the top of the table, Alliance is also leading the European LCS in several key statistical categories. Their average goal per minute as a team is the best in Europe at 1,700. They've got the least deaths on their team. They've got the most Barons. They lead the European LCS with Team KDA at 6.3. Tabs and Froggin have over 9.5 KDA each. Not only that, Nif has got the most assists in Europe. I could rattle off even more stats, but what it boils down to is that Alliance are playing phenomenally. They do sometimes take their time to close games out, but that's not because they're unsure, they don't know how. That's because they play patiently, they play coordinated, and they take advantage of their opponent's mistakes. And while I think as a team, they're very happy with their first 3 weeks of games.
And they're certainly doing really well. And honestly, it feels like Alliance have kind of cracked the code to their potential. They've really hatched a plan for success. Is this kind of the expected result? Or is this just Froggin kind of allowing his feathers to nest?
No, you can't. I can't believe you're talking about Anivia that way. Too many puns. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. The bird is the word for Alliance. We saw Froggin pull Anivia out at the All-Star game. He went 11-0-14. He spoke to Shox in an interview, and he actually said that the Cryo Phoenix would not be featured in the LCS. He's a liar because we saw it last week twice. He only died once, going 8-1-13 in his 2 performances. So far this split, though, Froggin has also proven time and time again that he can play more than just Anivia. He's got the highest average CS at 10 minutes of 83 from either the European or the North American LCS. You could put an argument for that he's the best mid laner in the LCS. He seems more focused, more determined, and if you compare Froggin and Alliance last split to Froggin and Alliance this split, it looks like he has the support of his team behind his plays. He's not just relying on individually carrying games. I think last week it was just the story of a boy and his bird, and I wouldn't be surprised to see teams actually banning Anivia away from him this week.
I know that makes a whole bunch of sense. Nobody wants to be left with egg on their faces. Yes, I know, that was an amazing yoke. So before we completely fry your brain with Anivia-related puns, let's talk about the Super Hot Crew. This is the team that has gone from the bottom of the spring split and now in the summer promotion tournament as well. They've now got a spot near the top of the standings, thanks in part to last week's epic win over Fanatic.
Yeah, and it really was epic, Freak. The Super Hot crew proved that they have the staying power to go toe-to-toe with Fnatic in the second longest game in the history of the LCS. At 1 hour and 4 minutes on the clock, it rakes in just behind the 2013 record-setting game between Dignitas and CLG, which lasted 1 hour and 11 minutes. Now, beside being a long-running game, there's some huge stats that we want to talk about. The total gold was just short of 200,000. 3,438 minions were slain during the course of the game. 313 wards were placed. Even more interestingly, both teams actually finished with 11 kills, 11 deaths, and 31 assists. Now, while the Superhawk crew have improved their game, they demonstrated they still have work to do. It took the Superhawk crew nearly 50 minutes to figure out how to force Fnatic's hand and how to actually close the game out. And in the end, it was finding picks and diversifying through the lanes that allowed them to take down Fnatic. Remember that Fnatic's the team that's won the last 3 splits of the LCS. In general, though, if you step back, the Superhawk crew just continue to impress, and I'm looking forward to seeing them compete for the rest of the split.
All right, well, quick shot. Once again, you've proven your brain rivals Heimerdinger's in terms of sheer girth. Thank you for dropping all that knowledge on us.
If only I had his hair as well. It's my pleasure, Freak.
I wish we all did. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our other European expert who's been busy gathering information for the preview show. How you doing, Shox?
I'm good. Always happy when I'm talking to you, Freak.
Always happy to see you as well. So, Alliance has been soaring. Rockets, though, they've been going in the opposite direction. They definitely don't look like the team that finished in 3rd place in the playoffs of the spring split. So even though they're going to receive a win today because of the Wolves' forfeit, they have to be worried about their record. Shox, you've been talking to the team. How do they address their current situation? Are they planning on making any changes?
Well, Freak, Rocket's top laner Zazas shared with me that he thinks that their current problems don't stem from lack of individual skill, but rather from how they execute their plans in the mid-game. He added that for that reason, and I quote, lineup changes are not even being discussed. Zazas added that now with their coach Veggie back in the house and them changing the way they practice significantly, they can definitely bounce back. I also asked some of the other LCS players what they think has been the issue for Rocket. Gambit's Edward thinks that some teams only play good if they play non-stop when they don't take a break between the LCS splits. And in his opinion, Rocket is one of those teams. They did take a break and they lost all of the work that they did before. Edward added that of course Rocket will return to form, but it will take some time. Now, Alliance's Nif agrees that Rocket is slowly catching back up and believes that last split they were much better prepared in comparison to other teams, and they often got their preferred picks. He mentioned that the meta changed this season, and they haven't been able to adapt properly yet, especially when it comes to lane swaps. Now, Fnatic's Xpeke mentions that he feels like Rocket's decision-making isn't that good anymore, and they were better aware of how to trade objectives before. He adds that the scene has improved and that teams learned what to prioritize and when to fight. He compares them to Fnatic, actually, in the sense that, and I quote, they're a bit like us. They have fallen behind some of the teams in knowing what to fight for and what to give up. Now, Xpeke also mentioned that in his opinion, Overpow isn't playing as great before, and I quote, before you would see him win his lane, but even if he didn't, he would roam or create pressure elsewhere on the map. As for Celiver, Xpeke adds that before Rocket's ADC would sneak kills every fight and become a late game carry, and he just doesn't see that anymore. So while the LCS pros expect Rocket to bounce back, not everyone agrees with Zazas that their individual skills are still strong.
Well, thank you for that, Shox. We're going to see a bit later when the European LCS gets underway if they can fix those issues.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the European LCS will kick off just after the preview show concludes with 3 matches. Things get started with SK Gaming facing Fnatic in yet another El Clasico. That match will be followed by the Super Hot Crew versus Millennium, and the day concludes with Alliance versus Gambit. And on Friday, 4 more European LCS games will head your way, beginning with another shot at redemption for Rocket as they face the Super Hot Crew in a rematch. While places like Summoner's Rift might not actually exist, and unfortunately the Trinity Force is not actually something I can buy in real life, it's nice to know that the Fantasy LCS has helped turn owning your fellow players into a reality. So to bring us a look at the Fantasy studs, duds, and sleeper picks, let's head over to the guy with the crystalline orb, Jat.
Thanks, Freak. And yes, I did melt down my crystalline flask and turn it into a ball, which does seem a bit more useful. But this week, we're going to look at last week and who were the top performers. 3 guys from LMQ were the 3 highest fantasy performers of all of the LCS. No Name In the jungle of all places, 53 fantasy points was the most for a jungler. ShiaShia was the most of all players. That included his 14-0-5 performance on Nidalee. And of course, Ackerman, this was probably the most impressive one because he had 24 more points than the second highest top laner. So if you had anyone on LMQ of these three, you probably did pretty good for that week. But let's also take a look at the guys who didn't perform very well, the duds. Out of the 16 junglers in the European and North American LCS, Crumbs was kind of stuck in the brush all week, apparently. He only scored 14 points, which is not only the lowest for a jungler, it was also the third lowest in the LCS overall. But on his heels, surprisingly, was Amazing, who only managed 17 points and was the second worst jungler behind Crumbs. And then another big surprise was actually Dyrus. He was started in 84% of the fantasy leagues and had his second lackluster week in a row. As an example, Youngbuck, Westrice, and Inox all scored 30 or more points, but were started in 3% or less of the leagues they're in. So it might be time to start reevaluating your top lane starter, at least until Dyrus starts turning his season around. But guys who are going to have a big week this week, now that we're looking at the future, probably going to be Mimer a little bit, because not only has he had a summer split with decent fantasy numbers where he started off, and he's kind of dropped off a little bit in the previous 2 weeks. This week they face Millennium and Roccat, and I expect him to do well, especially because Rengar, his favorite champion, is enabled this week, and it hasn't been previously. Link is another guy who has not been great lately points-wise, but since CLG is facing the two bottom teams in the standings this week, he should turn into a nice fantasy points earner, which is honestly the same reason that you should take a look at Dexter this week. This year, Dexter is yet to put up numbers, but this may be the week he picks up a lot of kills. And if fantasy had existed last year, a similar week was week 6 for him. He went 13, 2, and 14, which would have been enough to earn him 15 fantasy points if we had it back then. And then we also have a pretty big fantasy alert for you guys. The Copenhagen Wolves. They're forfeiting their game today against Roccat, which means anyone who's on your lineup with the Copenhagen Wolves or Roccat, unless you only want to get one game worth of points, you should swap them out for whoever you can. So definitely go and do that right now if you're watching this show, because it's very important. And we're not providing a money-back guarantee that our predictions are 100% correct, but Fantasy LCS is free to play, so we don't really have to. So those are our fantasy picks, and we'd like to hear yours. Send us a tweet to @LOLesports with the hashtag LCS Preview, and let us know which player you think will net the most fantasy points during Week 4. But now it's time for some completely legal and court-approved wiretapping as we eavesdrop on the pros from last week in the LCS. That's right, it's time for another All Chat.
5, 4, 3, 2.
League of Legends!
Ganja, hello. How are you?
You wanna do Nash? We could do it really fast if they don't have a war. Do you think we do Nash really fast?
Don't do Nash, don't do Nash. We can sneak the Nash.
We don't have pink on it.
So I'm just pressing. Can they be on banner right now? No. No.
But they're doing Nash, or like...
I can steal Nash easily.
No, we cannot. Nice.
Now we do it.
Okay, now we can get Nash.
I have TP up.
Dragons, not tigers.
Dragons.
Embrace your inner dragon.
Dude, you know they had a picture of you and a dragon, right?
Did they really?
Yeah. It's just like,
oh, really?
And the chat was like, nerds.
You just want to be on that like all chat thing, right? You just want it to be like 5 minutes of Pro Belter going. I'm out tonight, you know.
Hips don't lie, and I'm starting to feel this rain.
Getting the Drake.
Nice,
Nice guys, nice one.
We have TP here now.
Nope.
YOLO.
YOLO in this. One goal, one dream.
Finish the game. Okay, finish the game.
Finish the game, finish the game.
Good job, guys, good job.
Yes, no, I wanted 7.
Hell yeah.
Let's go Afro.
Shut up. Let's all do it.
Let's go Afro.
Anivia is still open, guys.
Yeah.
We have the free win if we want it.
I don't think Anivia makes sense.
Froggin, what can you pick where we would actually win teamfights here? I don't think he does anything.
Anivia, dude. I just think to handle it, Mal is the 2 carries in teamfight 6.
Anivia and Aurelia. Oh, Chris fucking really predicted this, guys.
The solution to all life's problems, just say Anivia, dude. Now, with the summer split more than a quarter of the way complete, it seems like the perfect time to check out where we stand with all the champions that have been played so far. It's time for the champion countdown. Now, after 64 combined LCS games, we've seen 57 unique champions take to the Rift, including 3 who made their debut last week. We've heard a lot about Froggin's Anivia since he brought the bird out last week, but we also had Sona bringing her musical pain to the lane for We Will Fail Her. And it's surprising that it took this long, but Pantheon also man-dropped in for the first time when he was selected by I Will Dominate this summer. So I do have some sad news, though. Heading into week 4 of the spring split, we'd already seen 70 different champions, 13 more than we've seen this summer. So players, we're going to see if we can kind of pick it up a little bit this week. Now, if you think you know who the next champion is going to be, then please share it with the rest of us. Hit us up with a tweet, use the hashtag LCS preview, and we'll test your powers of extrasensory perception. Now, before you tweet, there is some more information you should probably have. This week, both Rengar and Braum will be enabled. So, okay, yeah, we're kind of doing some of the work for you by letting you know what to tweet to us, but just don't say we don't love you. Now, let's turn our attention now to the North American LCS and check out some of the highlights as the teams clashed on the Rift. Our first matchup was pitted with the 3-3 TSM against the 4-2 LMQ, more specifically, Bjergsen versus ShiaShia.
And it was a showdown. The first time they really interacted as far as fatality is concerned was in all places the bottom lane. And ShiaShia just destroyed Bjergsen here, clearing the minions with his Hydra and then finishing him off.
Excellent play by him, but next up we've got even more battles. Amazing. Ends up really face-checking into this one. He had just seen ShiaShia down there.
Yeah, there's a pattern of all this. It's TSM going places by themselves and dying.
Hey, look at that. Threshold over the wall, and another team fight. LMQ starts out pretty nicely.
Yeah, this game was really about LMQ playing together as in a team, and TSM going in one at a time. Even there, they didn't combo the Yasuo and the Shyvana ult. That was a story throughout the game. LMQ picked up a very nice victory.
And a lot of unfortunate individual plays. Ackerman also, we talked about him being a big fantasy point earner. He went pretty big in that game, and TSM, of course, continues to struggle in this matchup. So LMQ looking good. Next up, though, EG versus Cloud9, and this one went a whole bunch of ways people didn't expect.
Exactly. There were tons of assists from many people on EG. Krepo played fantastically, but mostly because he was protecting Altec's Twitch, who went off this game.
Yeah, he was massive. And when you have an actual frontline who will peel for you, a Thresh that plays as well as Krepo did, it is very nice to be able to play Twitch in a game like this. 9-0-6 during that clip.
Yeah, surprisingly standard team composition here from EG, now 10-0-6, and everyone just wants to kill Altec. They eventually get him, but at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. Cloud9 goes super hard for this one, but Snoopy gets a nice ulti, and you've got Trundle there for Inox also, just dealing plenty of damage. So while they finally kill the AD carry, there's not enough left to win the team fight afterwards.
Yeah, Snoopy chases everyone else down. He still team fights very well on that Evelynn, and the triple kill from Twitch before he even dies was enough to seal the game.
Yeah, so Evil Genius is making things look a little bit better. They were 2-5 after that game. Cloud9 sank to 4-3, but then Dignitas versus Counterlogic Gaming, two teams at the top of the table. Very interesting game.
Yeah, marquee matchup for sure. And the bottom lane is where we thought CLG held their advantage. Double it from Nafamu, making a counter.
Just barely picking up the kill on that one. Unfortunately, Cutie Pie could have walked a little bit farther down and tanked some shots for his support. Maybe would have guaranteed the kill on Doublelift as a result, but
just about got him, but the dangerous game mastery saved Doublelift. Doesn't save him here, however.
No, a little aggressive. He flashed in, didn't call for a black shield, got cocooned. Not proper play. And so Dignitas do have ways of fighting battles. They've got this shifter Kassadin, which is super scary.
Yeah, it looked like Dignitas was going to be able to find a fight, but CLG just avoided them the entire game until Dignitas just tries to panic initiate here, reversed from their own base.
And so, yeah, you dive in for an AD carry, a mobile one with a black shield with Afram appealing for you, and you just kind of peter out in damage. You can't kill him, assassins kind of fall off. So Counterlogic Gaming, team fighting very well that game.
Yeah, the highlights don't do this game justice. It was a rotational masterpiece by CLG right here to pull out a win.
Great by them, but then Cloud9 versus CLG, gonna see if they can pull off a similar win. And they even start this game out with a lead.
Yeah, but then this Baron was almost the greatest play a Nidalee player has ever made until he missed the swipe. But it was still really fun to watch.
It was cool to watch, and at the very least, Lemonation's gonna get one on the backside here. Walks back and then says,
yeah,
no! Gets one for it. But yeah, CLG starts out so well.
Yeah,
but
crazy
they don't
thing
always
about
get
this game is it's a big gold lead by CLG, and they're still picking up kills on a Doublelift, but they're actually the ones that had some bad rotations this game, and in particular, a bad team fight right here.
They look to try to force it, but no one caught out Sneaky, a great engage, and then you've got a backline Twitch that no one's touching, and he just destroys people this fight.
Yeah, Balls was a great zone control man in this game as well with the Shyvana ultimate to really open up that fight so Sneaky could go in. That was Cloud9 scraping a win together.
It is. It's always been kind of their team fighting, their biggest sort of selling point, and they got some there in that game. So the North American standings look like a complete copy of the table used to be over in Europe in the summer or spring because there's a tie in nearly every single position.
Yeah, Team Dignitas and LMQ are leading the pack, both with 6 wins and 2 losses. Things remain close until we get to the bottom of the board, where Curse, the Evil Geniuses, and Complexity are the end of the first place Yang, as they all have 2 wins and 6 losses.
Now, one reason that Team Dignitas is sitting at the top of the standings is because their mid laner Shifter has seen the movie Highlander one too many times. Either that, or he's found the Holy Grail, or maybe he just made a deal with the devil, because he just won't die.
Well, he's not completely immortal, but the other teams are definitely having a hard time killing him. In fact, he's only died 3 times this split, giving him a whopping KDA of 26.33 thus far this year. And to put those 3 deaths into perspective, the fact that they have come across 8 games means that he's only died on average 0.375 times per game. If he continues to play on this level, he's on pace to end the split with only 10.5 deaths. And that is seriously impressive when you compare it to the current record holder for least deaths in the split, Meteos from Cloud9, who died 29 times in the 2013 summer split. And Shifter could beat that number by 18.5. Dig's mid laner is actually on pace to break that record, and one of the key factors is his positioning. Let's take a look at one of the big fights he's actually had on Ziggs and why it was so good. Notice how TSM used all of their initiation right there to jump in, and Shifter just peeled over to the side, so he was still in damage range, but was a huge deviation for TSM to try and get to. Once the fight is turned, the fact that he is getting hooked is pretty much irrelevant because his spells were on cooldown and he could continue to lay out the damage. This was a clean fight from Dignitas, but Shifter undertook almost no risk in order to get involved in all those kills. There could be a possible downside to Shifter's safe play, though, that has been brought up by some of the other mid laners. He might be playing too safe. Not dying often means that when you are ahead, sometimes it can be very, very good because you're a high threat target the other team wants to kill and they can't get. But you might not be doing the most efficient damage you could in the team fight, which means in close games, it could be to Dignitas' detriment. We'll have to keep an eye on that as the split continues.
So now tied with Team Dignitas for the top spot in the standings is LMQ, and their position is due in no small part to their mid laner, Xiao. I haven't seen a freshman performance like that since Will Smith became the Prince of Bel-Air. So is this the best LCS rookie performance ever?
Well, right now he is definitely up there among the best of all time. His cumulative KDA right now is the second highest in the North American LCS at 8.45, only behind Shifter. He has the highest average goal per minute in the NALCS at 426, and his average CS at 20 is the highest for both the North American and European LCS at nearly 200, 199.38, which handily tops Froggin's second highest number. And if we compare Xiao more importantly with some of the other top rookie performers over their first 8 games in the LCS, you can see that he is right near the top of that list. And his numbers aren't necessarily the best ever for a rookie in their first 8 games, but right now he's dominating the veteran players in the North American LCS like no rookie has really done before. And I would argue that the NALCS has never been stronger than it is now. So the fact that he's kind of carried LMQ into a tie for first place makes his performance even more impressive.
So while the North American LCS has gotten stronger this summer, one team that's gotten weaker is Team Solo Mid. Even though they won their final game of Week 3, it was against one of the bottom-ranked teams, and TSM is sitting in the middle of the pack. How concerned should they be?
Well, with more than a quarter of the split behind us, I would say they should be very concerned. Even though they managed to secure a win against Curse last week, they don't look like they're coming together as a team like they were supposed to. Last summer split in 2013, Team Solo Mid actually had very similar issues at the start of that split. But there was a big difference between last year's TSM and this summer's TSM. Reggie, the Odd One, and X-Special were there. There were 3 veterans to keep the entire team focused. All 3 had been around since the start of LOL Esports, and they were able to rally the troops, take second place in the LCS playoffs, and then earn their 3rd trip to Worlds as a group. But this year, Team Solo Mid is lacking that leadership. Instead of veterans, they have a rookie at support, an intercontinental transplant in the jungle, and even though he was the MVP of the spring, Bjergsen's kind of yet to display leadership with this new team. Even Reginald himself said that this summer's roster suffers from a lack of leadership and shot calling. So therefore, they've actually added a coach mid-season. Locodoco, they recently announced that TSM had hired him as a coach to serve for the team. He has extensive experience in both the North American and Korean scenes, including a trip actually to the OGN Champions final as a player. So a very experienced coach. TSM's hoping that his experience can lead to success. To be honest though, he has made a lot of mistakes in the past, so we'll have to see if he's learned from them and if he can apply that wisdom to Team Solo Mid and provide them the leadership that they are currently lacking.
So Locodoco and TSM will be tested earlier as our Week 4 coverage of they'll be tested later, I should say, as the Week 4 coverage of the North American LCS kicks off with Team Solo Mid taking on Cloud9, team they've only beaten once in 15 tries.
Yeah, on Sunday the LCS action will continue as Curse takes on LMQ, and later in the day, Team Dignitas faces Cloud9 in what's shaping up to be a top-of-the-table matchup in the North American LCS.
And that'll be a bunch of fun. But now it's time for the top 5 plays from last week in the North American LCS, or as Pentakill Karthus likes to call it, the Penta! Coming in at number 5, Crumbs crawls away with 1 HP.
Another clutch bind from Afro. Oh, the spear! He's not going to make it out alive. Wait, the potion? Oh, he lives! He lives! Oh, I've never seen someone chug a potion so good.
At number 4, ShiaShia goes toe-to-toe with Bjergsen.
It's still
an extra
Oh, ShiaShia. You can see Bjergsen's vision as he disappears. Tries to go for the ultimate, pops him up, going for the last one, doesn't get the hit. ShiaShia with the lifesteal, keeps himself alive.
At number 3, Svenskeren quickly closes the gap on Genja.
There is the Lantern coming in, flash as well. They manage to lock up Genja. He's going to flash away. The hook misses, but it doesn't matter. SK following through, and Svenskeren gets a kill back.
Nothing Genja can do at this point here. Once the flash play hits, you're dead.
At number 2, FLICKR hops a ward and hooks in Reckless.
Onto Mr. Rouse as well. There's the ultimate coming out with Baylor. The wave comes through. It was flashed by Baylor, who gets the hook and the play, and they lock up Reckless. That was fantastic out of Baylor once again.
And the number 1 play this week comes from Doublelift, picking up a flashy double kill.
He is denied from the fight. High is low in mana. Doublelift knows it. That is not the first time he's dashed straight into enemies. Doublelift wants the kills, and he knows he can get it.
That's why this fight was about AD carry positioning. Doublelift with a great reactive flash at the death sentence of Lemon to secure that double kill.
Well, it looks like my work here is done on the LCS preview show. Now, Riv, I'm sorry about that, bubblegum I stuck under the desk, but don't worry, I'll get it later. But before we go and send things to Cologne, sit back and relax as Cloud9's mid laner gives everyone else the shaft in our last hit. Oops, High did it again.
These teams ready to get into our second day here in the third week.
It's a very interesting choice. We'll have to see how his spear accuracy does this game.
High is going crazy with these spears right now. Doublelift not safe. Oh my gosh.
And High is just playing fantastic on Italy. Holy crap. How many are they going to land? High is an assassin right now. And he keeps landing the spears.
That was a spear. That was a shot. This could be game. You can hear the crowd absolutely loving these spears coming in.
Oh my God, Rip, I have to see that again.